Okay, so for this video we will talk about the measure tool. So the measure tool is a very useful tool to save a lot of time trying to figure out distances, but especially to define some positions for your robot objects and stuff like that. So I'm gonna talk about the measurement tool, but I'm gonna also talk about the teach on surface, another way you can use it. But those two are very closely related. So I really like kind of merging those two subjects together. So if you open measure tool, you have a few different things. So I'm going to start by just bringing in the rectangle 1000 millimeters per 700 millimeters. So it's really just a rectangle, nothing more, nothing less. If you go to tools and then measure, you will find this little window here. I'm going to deactivate everything. So if you click on that here, it will simply deactivate everything. I'm not so sure why it's there, honestly. But yeah, it's here. Then you have a few interesting things. So you have here snap on arc center. So that will be useful if you have a circle and you want to know the position of the center point. You have snap on curve midpoint and edges. That meant what it meant. Snap on any point, so any point you will find. You will have detect a cone, so it will pick the top position of a cone. Detect a cylinder, so it will make sure that you are within, let's say, along the center axis of a cylinder. And here you have detect plane, so it will pick the position of the center plane. You then have automatically extract surface edges. So if you have edges in between two surfaces, and you have automatically extract surface corner. So surface corner only happen when you have 3 or more surfaces connected together. Then you have the absolute. Honestly, I would kind of always recommend you using absolute for now. The reason is, like, if you don't select absolute, it will give you the position of whatever you're measured with respect to the origin of that part, not necessarily with respect to the reference frame, which I would prefer. So we are in discussion to improving that. I need to come up with a plan on exactly what I need here. But for now, there's still some tools that are useful. So I'm going to start. Honestly, my basic setup always looks like that. So absolute, and extract surface edges. I'm going to go and click select point here. So if I select one point here, you will see, first of all, remember that here this is the origin of the station, so this is the 0, 0, 0. If you press escape, it will release or clear the selection you had. So I'm gonna just go ahead and reselect it, so that's perfect. So if I select it, I can see here that this is I can see the position. So this is 350 along the x-axis, so in this direction, minus 500 along the y-axis, so in this direction. Press plus enough times so that we can see the axis. And then it's 10 millimeter up because the origin is like underneath here. So that makes sense. The dimensions of that plate are a meter per 700 millimeters. So that makes sense. If you were to come here and select another point here at the other side, you will see that you have now a line along that was draw along the edge of the part, and now you have 1 meter here. I can clear selection, reselect here, and then select here. You now have 700 written here, 700 here, the distance, and you have the 2 coordinates of the points. So that's the first thing. Very easy, very standard. If you go tools and then measure, so Shift M, you can also snap on the center of a line. So like that, this is part of it. So you can snap on the start and center of a line. You can decide to just use any point. Come here, you select the point. And you can also just have nothing and just pick points on the surface directly. So that's another thing you can do, and it will give you the distance between the last two times you selected. So very basic, but still interesting. If you were to move that part around, so potentially like move it here, and you want to know where is the center of this point, this part here, you can go measure. You can activate the detect plane here. If you select this one here, it will try to pick the point right in the middle of that surface and give you the position. That does make sense for now because the origin was right in the middle, and now it's telling me that I'm 920 millimeters away in X, and I'm indeed 920 millimeters away in X. So that works. Perfect. So let's go for something a bit more complicated or useful, if I can say. So let's open up the cell layout.rdk. So I can bring that up here. So this is something I created very quickly. The goal is to keep things very simple. But let's say that we have 3 positions for robots. So we have one position here on the pedestal, another position here on the stand, and a third position here on that plane here. So generally what you would do is go in, I'm gonna go and pick a UR robot, let's say, so a UR5. You had a UR5, and now you would try to move it around, find the right position. Sometimes you might know it from the CAD software, so it's not that hard, but yeah, and like that, but you know, it's not positioned properly all the time and everything. And I don't know exactly where it is. I just purposely drew those shapes in random spots so that I can't really just know where they are. So what I can do is click tool. So make sure that this station is at the origin, so reset so that my tool measure will work with absolute. So now what I'm gonna do is simply select snap on arc center. I'm gonna come here. It will give me the center point here. I'm gonna click copy here. I'm gonna go to my frame of the robot here and click paste, and then directly the robot is positioned at the right spot. So I could do the same with the second one here. So I can create another robot, let's say Control V, and then come here, select this one here, copy that, open this second frame, paste it, and now the second robot is where it should be automatically. Let's say we do the same with a bigger robot. So let's go and bring in a bigger KUKA robot, let's say, like this one here. If I want to place it right in the middle here, tool, measure, I'm gonna go to detect plane, select this section here, copy that out, double click the frame base of the robot, paste that out, and then the robot is in place. Now I can simply, oops, not in this direction, but potentially rotate the robot in a direction that makes sense for me. So that's great. Another thing that you can do though is also in the same kind of way, create reference frame at specific spot. So let's say that you want to create a frame right in the corner here, so that this table here has a reference of its own. You can go program and then teach on surface. Let's use any robot, doesn't matter in this case, but you absolutely need to have a robot, otherwise the teach on surface does not work. And then you can go add frame. We're gonna remove everything. We're just gonna select automatically detect surface corner, and I'm gonna bring my mouse here, and you can see that it wants to create a frame here. If I click, bam, we have a frame called frame snap, which is part of world. So that just like that, it created a frame. I could do here the same for this section here. So I now have a frame here. What's the point of that? Remember the station where we were like kind of stacking boxes? I'm gonna go back and find it. So pick and place here, organize box. So I'm gonna open this one here. I'm gonna pick the part reference frame here, Control C. I'm gonna bring it here Control V. So now it's kind of nowhere. But I have my frame snap that I created here. So I could either just, so two options here. So either I reset that here and drag and drop it directly here. It will be placed in the right spot. Or the other thing I could do, if I do not want to have two frame one on top of the other, which is kind of a bit useless, I will remove this first frame snap here so that I only have one. I'm going to open it. I'm going to copy the value here. Values. I'm going to open frame part. I'm going to paste the values. And here we have our our rack with all the boxes. So it's an easy way to position stuff around. In parameter on surface, you also have the possibility to snap on arc center. You have the possibility to snap on cylinder, any point and edge. So you have capabilities, and you can use your mouse. So here, and you can use your keyboard arrows to kind of flip between one configuration or the other. So that's it for this little example here. If I go back to my module 2, 3D models, and then measure, Control N for a new station. So if I was to bring in the linear rail, wait a few seconds. If I want to add a robot on top of that here, what I can do, bring in the robot, let's say. So this one here. So in this case here, I can simply go Tool, Measure, Snap, Detect Plane, come here, it will give me the middle plane. Click OK, click Copy, double click here, Paste, and then I just need to rotate that up a bit like that, and potentially rotate like this too, if I don't want to be obstructing this piece here. So that's a method. I'm going to show you one last thing with regard to that. So Control N, because sometimes you need to be a bit creative. So I'm going to go for the 2-axis rail this time. Bring that one in. Now I need to attach the same robot. Let's say, I don't know if it fits, but anyway, the same robot here. So let's bring in the robot. But if I go here and I go Tool, Measure, and Detect Plane, if I click here, it clearly doesn't give me the middle point, that's for sure. So what I can do in this situation like that, because this is a weird plane with a lot of stuff around, so that kind of confusing a bit the algorithm. But there's like, all hope isn't lost. What I'm gonna do is gonna go snap on curve midpoint. Gonna come here right in the middle, create the point here. I'm gonna do the same for this other line here. So that just gives me a measurement between those 2 points, but that happened to be like right in the middle of that section, which is cool. So what I can do is click Create Geometry. You will see a new geometry here appearing called line, and the length of that line. That's cool. You can clear selection. This line, by the way, could be used later as a path that you can follow with the robot, but that's not what I wanted to show you. Now that I have that line, and I still have snap on curve midpoint and edge, I can come close here, select that point, and this is the midpoint. So I can copy that, double click the robot base reference frame, paste, and then figure out the rotation. So let's say 90 here. This robot is way too big for that setup, but you get the concept of how to pick that you can use this to kind of, let's say, finesse your way into finding the right position by creating some lines in between. Okay, so that's a basic feature, I would say, but still I'm using it a lot. It wasn't there like a few years ago, and it was really a struggle positioning some objects in your station. So I really believe that this is a great improvement. and that it can be very useful to save some time in your in the creation of a station. Okay, that's it for this one.